We're here for the ninth in a 52-part series as we journey week by week through the Daily Stoic. And I want to start today with February 29th. February 29th, just in case you're finding this journey on a leap year. I appreciate that. The day is titled, You Can't Always Be Getting What You Want. Obviously a ripoff of You Can't Always Get What You Want. But the quote comes to us from Epictetus. When children stick their hand down a narrow goody jar, they can't get their full fist out. Let me start again. When children stick their hand down a narrow goody jar, they can't get their full fist out and start crying. Drop a few treats and you will get it out. Curb your desire. Don't set your heart on so many things, and you will get what you need. The entry from our authors: we can have it all is the mantra of our modern lives. Work, family, purpose, success, leisure time. We want all of this at the same time, right now, to boot. In Greece, the lecture hall was a leisure center where students contemplated the higher things, the good, true, and beautiful, for the purpose of living a better life. It was about prioritization, about questioning the priorities of the outside world. Today, we're too busy getting things, just like kids jamming their hand down a jar of goodies, to do too much of this questioning. Don't set your heart on so many things, says Epictetus. Focus, prioritize, train your mind to ask, do I need this thing? What will happen if I do not get it? Can I make do without it? The answers to these questions will help you relax. Help you cut out all the needless things that make you too busy, too busy to be balanced or happy. This reminds me of a quote from Jordan Peterson. I don't know exactly what the video was called. I don't know any of that, but I'm sure you can find it just by searching Jordan Peterson sacrifice. And basically, what he says is that you have to pick your sacrifice in life. And if you don't want to pick a sacrifice in life, that's fine. But you'll sacrifice all of it. Personally, the way that I think of this, and look, in a very artistic fashion, I think, if I can credit myself with something, it's this. I think what I am doing here in this series is an exploration in real time for myself, but also hopefully some type of conversation with you. But also, if I can put my mistakes out there, maybe to make that mistake more evident in some sort of larger fashion, then I owe it to do it. I owe it to do that in order that this series might be profitable for someone other than myself. And the way that I see this coming to play in my own life is the way that I set my goals. If you were part of the goal-setting series on this channel, which has gone forsaken for far too long, I break my life down into different categories. Writing, education, monetary, just these different categories that I set my life up in. For me, for basically the entirety of my 36 years, social life has been a sacrifice. I'm just no good at it. I never have been. I never particularly planned to be, if we're being open. But even without the social life aspect of my life, what I'm trying to do is probably too multifaceted. And because of that, what I have found myself doing the past couple years is fluctuating wildly. So we'll just say fitness, YouTube, writing, education/reading. We'll just go with those four for now. What I will do, what I find myself doing far too often, is concentrating very heavily in one of these four areas. If I'm writing, I go ham, baby. I don't do anything else. I don't do anything else. When I get on a fitness trip, if you follow me over on Strip Cover Lit or even this channel, in around June of last year, I sort of sacrificed everything else and just started walking nearly in Forrest Gump fashion, putting miles on my legs. It helped me lose 20 pounds, basically in a summer, and I've got a few more to lose. But it came at the expense of, I didn't do very much writing at all. I did almost no creation for the channels. What I was doing essentially was, there was a shortage, a labor shortage, where everyone's familiar with this, with the COVID thing, right? I was working 6 or 7 days a week. After that, I would go on a miles-long walk. 6 miles, 7 miles, 8 miles, 10 miles, somewhere in there. I think the most I ever walked in a day was 13 miles. And it drained me. And I had a little bit at the end of that, and I got some poetry out of it. But not a lot. And zero creation. Now, I'm working 6 days a week and creating and writing. But I don't have time for anything else. My fitness has fallen off. I struggle with that balance, is what I'm trying to get around to. This is something to be mindful of. What are we sacrificing? What do you sacrifice? And I think at some point I have to come to terms with the fact that I've got to figure it out how to balance things. I'm trying now to get, right now what I'm doing is I'm working 6 days. Then I will walk 2 miles. Then I will get 200 words in. Not a lot, but if you don't make your days count, they'll never add up. If your days don't count, they will never add up. So this 200 words a day is focused 200 words. It is on the same project that I'm working on. And after that, I'm making a video every day, making a video. A lot of these for Strip Cover Lit, and I'm done with everything up until April, or everything through the year for Friday uploads. But in April, I'm doing a poetry discussion every day of the month in celebration of National Poetry Month. And this is balance, right? All of those prongs of life: work, money, walking, fitness, writing 200 words a day, making a video for the YouTube stuff. It is balance, but it will break me. And I will at some point falter. And I'm hoping that I don't falter as bad as I did last year, where all of a sudden for the rest of the year, all I do is work on my fitness stuff. Go to the gym and the track, right? But where is that balance when the balance means health? Not just fitness health, but altogether health. What I do is I swing wildly from one thing to another. I will at some point for sure get nervous that, hey, 36, all these ideas for stories that I have in my head and still don't have on paper, they're going to die with me so long as I don't get them out. I'm not going to do anything else but write. That's something with which I struggle. And I hope laying that bare will cause me, will force me, will help me, and allow me to sort of recognizing it is key to overcoming it, I think. There's something from AA in there somewhere. So we'll move on The next day that I want to talk about in the Daily Stoic is March 1st. Now, every month in this has its own little headline, its own little subset of ideals, and ironically, for the talk that I just did, March is subtitled Awareness. March 1st, Where Philosophies Begin. The quote again from Epictetus in Discourses, an important place to begin in philosophy is this: a clear perception of one's own ruling principle. And from our authors, philosophy is intimidating. Where does one start? With books? With lectures? With the sale of your worldly possessions? None of these things. Epictetus is saying that one becomes a philosopher when they begin to exercise their guiding reason and start to question the emotions and beliefs and even language that others take for granted. It is thought that an animal has self-awareness when it is able to fully recognize itself in a mirror. It's interesting. Perhaps we could say that we begin our journey into philosophy when we become aware of the ability to analyze our own minds. Can you start with that step today? When you do, you'll find that from it we really come alive, that we live lives, to paraphrase Socrates, that are actually worth living. Philosophy is intimidating. If you don't believe that, if you don't agree, try reading Nietzsche. Try spelling Nietzsche. But it doesn't have to be all that intimidating to begin, right? You don't have to know Stoicism to be something of a Stoic. The intimidating factor of having to live by a principle doesn't have to be 24/7. Doesn't have to be all the time, every time. Nothing ever is. But I think that finding one's ruling principle, as Epictetus calls it, is a necessary beginning. For me, it's always been work. Not necessarily timing in, clocking in, going to a job. But there's a video on my channel somewhere, I don't remember where, I don't remember what playlist it's in, where I talk about the difference between your job and your work. For me, my job is overnights at the corner store. My work is this. My work is my writing. There is a saying from Martin Luther. You can Google it. I don't remember who said it. Everyone should be ashamed to die until they've contributed to the human race. Something like that. It's not word for word. Something like that. That is the guiding principle there. For me, I am probably utterly incapable of contributing in a social fashion. So my contribution, insofar as I will make one, will be through words, will be through will be through my writing. That's what guides me. And knowing and recognizing that has helped me become more at ease with that sacrifice. If you want to sacrifice, for example, the monetary portion of life, you're fine not having money, then you've got to make those other areas of life count. For me, and look, it's a gamble. There is nothing saying that these videos, this channel, Strip Cover Lit, the writing that I do, there's nothing saying or guaranteeing that I will make a difference for anyone. It's a risk. It absolutely is. But making the social life sacrifice versus trying to wriggle into that part of life and foregoing this would be devastating to me. On the artist's level, as a writer, a short storyist, an essayist, a poet, a novelist, yeah, I accept the fact I may never amount to anything, absolutely anything, on those levels. Might not ever make a damn thing of myself as far as that is concerned. But that is the risk that I am willing to take. I am not going to make millions of dollars, regardless of if that happens or not, right? Very few millionaire novelists. I'm fine with that sacrifice. Recognizing that sacrifice and the possibility of utter failure brings authenticity, in my opinion, to the rest of the stuff that I do, to the areas where I am trying to make a difference. That authenticity is what allows the failures to be non-accumulative, if that makes any sense. Rejection letters or videos that don't go over well, etc. All of these little things that could be devastating become a dispassionate observation when taking into account the fact that that work was done, whether it has failed or not. And so authenticity, that's important, I think. But just because my sacrifice is the social part, is the being around people part, my life is a life of letters. That is not me saying that someone who decides to dedicate their life to other people, to service in an interpersonal way, is not a pursuit worth having, and sacrificing this part of someone else's life is not worth having been sacrificed. I do believe that the unexamined life is not worth living, as it was pointed out earlier in this text that Socrates said. But the level of examination varies. And simply examination enough to say, okay, that's the part that I'm foregoing, I think is examination enough, because it allows the individual whose goal is interpersonal to say, yeah, I thought about it. Yeah, I figured it out. This is it. The last day that I want to talk about here is March 4th. Subtitled, Awareness is Freedom. These things all sort of roll together here. Again, the quote is from Epictetus in Discourses. The person is free who lives as they wish, neither compelled, nor hindered, nor limited, whose choices aren't hampered, whose desires succeed, and who don't fall into what repels them, who wishes to live in deception, tripped up, mistaken, undisciplined, complaining in a rut. No one. These are base people who don't live as they wish, and so no base person is free. Again, from Epictetus and Discourses, and from our authors here, it is sad to consider how much time many people spend in the course of a day doing things they, quote, have, end quote, to do. Not necessary obligations like work or family, but the obligations we needlessly accept out of vanity or ignorance. Consider the actions we take in order to impress other people, or the lengths we'll go to fill or the lengths we'll go to fulfill urges or sate desires we don't even question. In one of his famous letters, Seneca observes how often powerful people are slaves to their money, to their positions, to their mistresses even, as was legal in Rome, to their slaves. No, quote, no slavery is more disgraceful, he quipped, than one which is self-imposed, end quote. We see this slavery all the time. A codependent person who can't help but clean up after a dysfunctional friend. A boss who micromanages employees and sweats every penny. The countless causes, events, and get-togethers we're too busy to attend but agree to anyway. Far out. Take an inventory of your obligations from time to time. How many of these are self-imposed? How many of them are truly necessary? Are you as free as you think? I think authenticity is king in the examined life. Authenticity to whatever the thing is king. Authenticity to the examined is king in the examined life. Once examined and the sacrifice is chosen, authenticity to the self and to the goals, to the work, to the people, that authenticity is the thing that's worth it. That authenticity is the real stuff. There is a phrase in writing known as the objective correlative. Basically, it's often explained as not in ideas, but things. So, if you are writing a love poem, you don't say, "Oh, honey, I love you so much. I love, 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 love you." The cliche object here would be the rose. You describe the rose and the inherent value in the poem of the rose is the idea. Not in ideas, but things. The objective correlative. So, this authenticity in life, the objective correlative of life, is that thing which makes the individual's, I'm going to use a cliche, world turn. Oftentimes, I think, what will happen, and I'm assuming this is everyone, not just me, we'll get this idea, I'm a writer, I am a writer, I am an auteur. So what does a writer do? Well, it's up to the writer. But what will happen is I'll say, okay, well, a writer writes every day. I think that's a pretty good standard. I think that's a pretty good way to be a writer, is to write every day. What it means to be a writer is not, I don't think, to be published, to be living in some mansion with a personal library. I don't think that's what defines a writer as being a writer. But I think that being a writer is to write every day. When I become inauthentic in my pursuits, what I do is saying, hey, a writer writes every day. So I'm going to write every day, baby. But it becomes me sitting down and writing absolutely garbage. Absolute garbage. Becomes me sitting down and writing whatever it is that's on the prefrontal lobe at the time. Being a writer becomes, okay, well, I have to create a Twitter and self-publish my books on Amazon and send out 8 tweets per day promoting my own work. And that's not what being a writer means. That's all the other stuff. Now, it's not to say that that's a bad pursuit. That's not to say that can't be a part of it. But it isn't the thing, is it? It isn't the thing. Or, I want to be fit. Oh, what does being fit mean? Well, I want to look like Chris Hemsworth. Well, what do you mean when you say you want to look like Chris Hemsworth? You mean Thor. You're not talking about Chris Hemsworth from any of his other movies, right? Well, that means I got to have a 6-pack and I got to have really big biceps. So I'm going to do crunches and curls all day. Well, that's not being healthy. That's not being fit. So Hugh Jackman. Let's use Hugh Jackman instead of Chris Hemsworth. Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine has often said, not as Wolverine, but when training for the role of Wolverine, he said, it's miserable. Absolutely miserable. Terrible. Terrible stuff. Because he's got to eat chicken and broccoli all day. That doesn't make him very popular with his wife, the broccoli. And man, working out 3 times a day sure does make us sacrifice a whole lot of other parts of life. So that's not being fit. You think about the paradigms of fitness in our culture, I think of football players. Man, to be able to run that fast, to be able to lift that much weight, to be able to throw other grown men around in that way, to be able to have that stop and go type of fitness, go, 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 stop, go, 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 stop. Well, your average player from the NFL loses quite a few years off the end of his life. It's not really all that fit. So if you get caught up in, well, I want to be able to bench press 225 for 17 reps and run a 4.340, A, you're never getting that 4.340. B, 17 reps with 225 isn't really all that much. C, your shoulders are going to hurt. Your knees are going to blow out. It's not fit. It's not being fit. So one thing that I get lost in with this, saying, okay, I want to be more fit. I want to have more money in the bank. I want to be more of a writer. I want to create more videos. I get lost in the hoopla of it. I set those goals. I want to make 150 videos this year. I start making BS videos about fluff, nothingness. Probably you're thinking like this one if you've made it 29 minutes into this. I set that goal for 150 videos and I start breaking it down. Once I break it down into too much minutia. And it devolves in the same way that my goals for writing devolve into the superficial stuff. Not in ideas, but things. That is all I have for this, the 9th episode in the Daily Stoic series here. Again, this video is to supplement the text, not to replace it. So I hope that if you are following along in this series, you are making a journey of your own through the text. And I hope to see you for next week for the next video.